Good afternoon. On behalf of Engineers Australia, I'm delighted to welcome you all to today's webinar, Seamless Office to Site Collaboration. My name is Amanda and I'll be your host for today. Firstly, in keeping with our custom, Engineers Australia acknowledges the traditional custodians of the country throughout Australia and recognises their continuing connection to land, waters and community. We pay our respects to them, their cultures and to elders past and present. Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge that today's webinar is being hosted with Engineers Australia's industry partner, Revizto. Revizto enables the people behind the world's most important structures to do their best work. They connect architects, engineers, contractors and owners to deliver projects on time and on budget. By uniting teams in one shared 2D, 3D space across the entire building life cycle, Revizto drives maximum collaboration and results. From airports to hospitals to data centres, Revizto empowers clients like Jacobs, Acom, Lend-Lease, John Holland Group and Gammon Construction to deliver critical infrastructure without risk or waste for a world that's built to last. The technology is built on gaming engine, making it unbreakable for construction's toughest conditions, working everywhere teams need it, in the office or on site across all devices. Today's session, we will hear from 3 speakers, followed by a live audience Q&A. And as always, I encourage you to send questions through to our speakers via the YouTube chat box. I'd now like to welcome our first speaker, Warren Allan, Digital Engineering Manager, John Holland Group. Warren focuses on making digital engineering tools practical and useful on real construction projects. He works closely with project teams to get the best outcomes while supporting colleagues to build skills and share knowledge. Warren prioritises quality and consistency, ensuring what is modelled can be built, commissioned and operated efficiently. Warren is passionate about safety in design, reality in design and constructability, and actively champions team well-being, equality and mental health in the workplace. Please welcome Warren Allan.
Thank you for that warm introduction. I will be discussing how we can use BIM to narrow the gap between design and delivery teams this afternoon. So is there really a gap? A lot of people would be, oh no, absolutely not. You know, design and delivery teams work absolutely seamlessly together and there's never a problem. I'm sure that's what a lot of you are thinking. But let's just stop and consider for a moment the difference in the 2 teams. So we've got the difference in experience and knowledge, the way they approach the projects, the way they approach their tasks, the work environment, the timing of access to information, which I think is probably one of the most critical ones. So the ability to actually make change is leveraged off the back of that timing of the access to information as well. So they go hand in hand. Differences in perspective. So quite a bit of finger pointing going on and having a look at who's doing what. And then accountability. So accountability is a big one because the delivery team often feels like they are the ones left holding the baby figuratively. So the design team might already be moving on to another project by the time that some of these issues come to light. So that's the gap we're talking about. It's not about blame. It's not about any of that. It's just about discussing how we can bring the 2 processes closer together and actually work as one. Because at the end of the day, don't we have the same goals? The goal of all these projects is to safely complete a project on time, on budget, and also meets the client's needs and expectations. That is what we're all striving for at the end of the day. So without the information connecting design and delivery teams, they spin in isolation. Design can be doing their thing, delivery can be doing their thing, but without that cog joining us in the middle, without that link, that bridge of the right information at the right time, the projects just won't move forward. So I've been involved in the industry for a while now on both the delivery and the design side of things. So 20 years as a mechanical services construction delivery. So that's everything from a foreman to an operations manager to a mechanical site manager. Worked on some pretty large projects, some really interesting projects, and that's where I started my journey into digital construction. I'll show you the example shortly, what actually was the catalyst for making the jump. And then since I've come over to the digital side of things, I've worked on a few really cool projects. So Western Sydney Stadium, Sydney Football Stadium, Biomedical Research Building for UTS, and then also Victoria Cross Railway Station, underground railway station in Sydney there, in North Sydney, which is the largest underground cavern railway station in Australia to date. And at the moment, I'm delivering Waterfront Brisbane project and Logan Hospital expansion. So quite a few jobs on the run. Here we have the Sydney ICC Exhibition Centre, 35,000 square metre display space. Very large project. You can get a feel for the size of the project based on the size comparison with the Opera House. That is to scale. So big project, a massive space. So this is where I first became acutely aware of the gap between design and delivery teams. So I'll paraphrase because we're not going to use our nasty words today. So this riser has been designed without thought for how it shall be constructed. Basically what we had is a 30-metre vertical riser that could only be accessed from either ground floor or the open top of the riser above. So we're in this situation where we cannot get in there, install services. We cannot get in there to commission, to prepare this. So what happened was, it took me quite a while to convince people that this was actually going to be a delivery problem and a safety problem. And what ended up happening was there was a prefabricated riser frame solution implemented, which added time to program, added expense. But at the time of design, when we looked at the design, no one at this point had thought, how are we going to build this? Or they just assumed it was going to be a scissor lift or scaffolding or something along those lines. It just was not going to work. So what I've learned over the last 20 odd years, and especially over the last 5 years moving into the digital space, it's critical to ask the teams what they need and then listen to the response, actually listen, rather than just telling teams what they are getting. If you don't empower people to have what they need and have tools that they can actually have buy-in and use, then people won't use the platforms. We need to start by building simple and robust workflows. We need workflows that don't rely on people just pushing buttons every day to make the systems work. We need to help teams build their individual user confidence. So if people aren't confident in what they're looking at, if they're not confident in the data they're extracting from these platforms, then they're not going to use them. And support and empower your teams. So it's a case of, if someone, encourage your team to come and ask you questions, encourage your team, say, what is not working for you, what is causing you the most grief, and then see if there's a digital solution we can apply to it, or at least assist in the process. So be there and listen, try and understand what is actually being asked for, what the actual need is, not just forcing your team to use some software platform's newest features that don't add any real value to the workflow. So BIM is a tool with so much potential for delivery teams to use. We know that design teams are already there, they're using it, they're collaborating, but delivery teams, it is a completely useless tool when it stays in the figurative toolbox unused. So the sad reality is not every person or organization wants to join the BIM journey. You just have to let those parties go. Ultimately, they will either jump on the train or they will get left behind at the station. So much of what we do comes down to the timing of information and how that information is exchanged. So we have a design period and a delivery period in a normal program construction timeline, and there will be a line in the sand that is issued for construction. There will be this one date where everything gets handed over neatly in a bundle. Design team shakes hands with the delivery team, and the delivery team moves on, and the design team never has to be spoken to again because everything works perfectly. I'm sure we've all worked on projects like that. So this is more of a typical construction timeline based on what I've been seeing lately. So design progresses well into the delivery time. So we have a situation where there might be client-driven changes, there could be performance-driven changes, there could be design errors that are picked up, or it could just be a case of late information coming in as a part of the project. And the design is actually creeping well and truly into the delivery space. What we need to do is we can't control that. We can't control that design creep. What we need to do is try and drag the delivery teams into the mix earlier to get that engagement earlier and to get their buy-in. Also their understanding and their expertise, because just because something's designed in full doesn't always mean it can be constructed the actual way it's designed. So it does pay to get the delivery team involved as early as possible. So getting delivery teams engaged earlier, talking with and working as one with the design teams is the key here. The idea that they're two separate teams, we need to understand that it's one team that has two separate roles within the team. Because the finger pointing and the holding back of information, or the discussions that happen that aren't productive, just need to be put to bed. We need to move forward as one to get these projects moving on time and moving a bit more smoothly. So how do we use BIM to help here? Everyone wants a crystal ball to see the future. The federated model is everyone's crystal ball. So I don't think you need to be a fortune teller or a future seer to be able to see what's going on in that little globe. So that's actually an issued for construction design model that was handed over, ready to go. And we can see that it's probably not quite ready to go yet. So how do we customize these models to make sure that we are actually getting the most out of these platforms and helping teams be able to get the information that they need? So search sets are the cogs that drive the machine. Search sets are what enable us to really target in on information, whether that be for clash detection or that be for applying appearance templates, even just as simply as making sure things are referenced to the right levels. Search sets are the cogs that drive the machine. So using this example where we look at floors, we have a couple of things I do recommend when people are setting up search sets is mirror your common data environment for your folder structure. That way, whether someone's working in the model in the CDE or someone's working within Revizto, you're able to actually have parity between the two and see where that information sits. You're not searching for things, you know the consistency in the naming structure. And the other part is future-proofing your search sets. So if we have a search set that relies on source file alone as the first criteria that it searches for, if someone splits their model, that search set will only hold a part of the information. So I definitely recommend when you're setting up your search sets, set them up with the organization's key identifier as the contains feature rather than the source file equals the full file name. What that will do is allow you to have the multiple models from one organization and still be capturing all of the data that's available. Now, if you're looking with two companies that both do structural and civil, for example, you might want to use the company identifier and then the discipline identifier as well, and then just leave off the numbering convention for the models. So dial that in as you need to if there's multiple parties, if there's one party modeling multiple items. But generally speaking, having a few layers of the data that's being selected will allow us to then get the right data, because there's floors modeled in multiple models, there's walls modeled in multiple models, even to the point of this structural example. We have a source file, then we have a work set, which is concrete, and then we have floors, because there's tread mesh floors on this project as well. So the idea of just grabbing a single Revit category to be able to get what you need out of the back end is not going to work. You need to have 2 or 3 layers of scrutiny to be able to get the right data. Even pipes, when you consider pipes, there's 3 or 4 different trades depending on the type of project you're working on that are going to be modelling pipe work. Just simply choosing a Revit category pipe is not going to get you the results you want. So tailoring the information, property favourites. Now, this is a phenomenal tool within Revizto. The ability to set up your favourites for your properties and be able to just have what's relevant for you there ready to go on the screen. So here's a couple of examples of the property favourites. So the first one, we have multiple presets that are available. So the first one is from the services preset. We can see there, mechanical contractor, it's a duct accessory, it's a fire damper. We know the size of it, all there, all just by hovering over the item, not even selecting it. When we have that preset selected, we hover over the item within the screen in 3D, and it'll come up with that information in a little selection box there, little preview. And same thing again from if we look at another preset which we have set up, which is the wall inspector. So that comes up with what's relevant to the walls. So whether it's a smoke wall, whether it's full height, whether it's structural, all that information is right there at your fingertips. All you have to do is hover your mouse over an item. So clarity at first glance. We have appearance templates. So the beauty of appearance templates is that you can actually dial in on what you want to see. So it allows you to cut out all of the noise, focus on what's relevant, and then control how it actually appears. I think it's the most underrated and underutilized tool in Revizto. It's a phenomenal tool. No matter what workflow you're looking at, there will be an appearance template that you can customize and apply to make what you're doing easier, to make what you're trying to look for clearer. There's no two ways about it. There isn't a single workflow that would not be improved by having a custom appearance template set up for your organization. So this is an example of how easily appearance templates work. So what we have here is a slice of a building, and we're looking at the walls. We're trying to interrogate what kind of wall is what. Every single wall here is grey from its native export in Revit. So when we apply the appearance template, we now see walls of different colours. Walls that aren't full height walls become transparent. So from a site coordination point of view, you know which walls are full height, which walls aren't, which walls are pressure walls, which walls are smoke walls, which walls are fire walls, and then we've got acoustic walls in the mix as well. Now, I will say this appearance template irks me a little bit because of the bright blue. I hate setting things bright blue in appearance templates because then sometimes you get a little bit of confusion between what's actually a selected item and what's something that's had an appearance template applied to it. So I tend to not use a bright blue for anything, but the team asked, that's specifically what they wanted, so that's what they got. I'm here to help them. Another example for the delivery team is we were looking at block walls versus services. So a lot of the time we have services that are modeled through block walls, particularly firewalls. And just because the services are modeled through those walls and they're not clashing does not necessarily mean that block wall, that firewall can be constructed on site in a way that's compliant. So what we do is we apply an appearance template. And now what we have is the services on site just with the block walls visible. So we've got red walls, which are block walls. We've got the cable trays, ductwork, fire dampers, all the services are visible. And then we can zoom in and interrogate the walls. Each of the walls, make sure that the services are configured in such a way that the walls can actually be built, sealed, be compliant. Another appearance template, I had a recent member of a delivery team come to me and say, I just want to see, when I look at Revizto, I just want to see the rooms and anything that's bolted to the walls in the rooms. Anything that comes in later on, loose joinery or anything like that, I really don't need to see it at this point. So we created an appearance template to make sure that could happen. And this was the result. So we also applied the wall color template that we had up and running, but everything here now is either bolted to a ceiling or to a wall, and none of the loose joinery is in the mix. It just makes it that much clearer to be able to see what's actually going on. if it's not modelled, you can't coordinate against it. If it gets installed, it really needs to get modelled. So some intelligent thoughts required for what this includes. It's a pretty blanket statement. So just saying something along the lines of every single thing that gets installed on site needs to get modelled is not going to, it's not going to add value. We're not going to model ceiling hangers, for example. But if you've got something that exists in a space that other services or other disciplines will need to model around and coordinate around, then that needs to be added to the mix. So here's a good example. We recently completed a stage 1 of a hospital where there was these architectural bulkheads at the staff stations. At the time, the architect modelled the bulkheads, no problem. We coordinated everything above the ceiling. And then when it came time to actually install the services and the bulkheads, depending on who got there first, there was nothing but trouble because the services were running where the bulkheads needed to be framed, or the frames were where the bulkheads needed to be, the frames were where the services needed to be run. So what we did was we learned from that mistake with the next building, and we actually got a simple exclusion zone added to the Revit family by the architect. Different architect, different project, but we added it to the Revit family. So anywhere there was a bulkhead now, there's an exclusion zone that just lives in the ceiling above it. Now, the purpose of this wasn't to stop any services being anywhere in there at all, but it was to try and make sure that any services that were running longitudinally down along those bulkheads actually ran outside the bulkhead framing. Perpendicular intersections, no problem. They could be bridged around, but we wanted to make sure that when it came time for install, things were streamlined. There wasn't going to be trying to work out every single staff station how the framing was going to get around the services that were installed, or how the services were going to get around the framing that was installed. It was a matter of trying to take away a source, just one source of frustration, and just trying to do that progressively. Now, in the process of doing this and running clash detection and actually looking at it in detail in coordination, we were able to identify an example like this, where traditionally either the MEC contractor or the ceilings and partitions contractor would have found this intersection depending on what was installed first. The other one would have come along and said, how am I meant to do this? So we found this constructability issue, we communicated and workshopped the plan for how we're going to overcome it. And then it looks like secondary steel is going to be the requirement there, because where it comes out of the plant room, there's just no room to run services anywhere else. The staff station is where it is, that's not moving, so we had to find another solution. So it was that we're going to create a secondary framework to be able to support the ceiling around the surfaces that were there. But we know that's coming now. It's being detailed prior to getting to site and actually trying to do the work out there on site. So likewise, architects are very good at modelling things that are visible. So anything that you walk through a building and you see, we tend to actually get that modelled. Where we sometimes have difficulty is items that pass beyond the ceiling, that have components that pass beyond the ceiling. So things like doors, medical pendants, operable walls, bariatric supports, all sorts of things like that, that have an above ceiling component. We need to be able to coordinate around those above ceiling components with our services. The architecture, just because the door is shown below the ceiling doesn't mean the framework does not extend above the ceiling. So we've really been focusing on reality and design on this project and making sure that if there is something that needs to be coordinated against inside a ceiling space, then it is modelled so we are able to do so. So this comes from when I first joined John Holland back in January 2022. I walked out onto site, met the site manager, and he took me aside and said, I'm sick of working off drawings that are out of date. The whole team needs access to the most up-to-date information every step of the way. None of my team are printing drawings on this project. I want a BIM computer. And I said, Scott, most computers are BIM computers. And he rolled his eyes and looked at me and said, no, I want a virtual plan bench. So that's what we set about doing. We set up a virtual plan bench. So this bit of kit was used all day, every day in that site office. And it is basically allowing the team to look into the crystal ball. So here we see Scott and his team looking at the virtual plan bench, which is the crystal ball for the project, looking at intricate areas, mapping out works, planning works, even looking at things like where scaffold needles were going to be coming into existing plant rooms. None of the team had used Revizto previously, so we started training from scratch, using it on the PC, using it on the virtual plan bench, and also Scott bought iPads for all the team. So everyone now had access to all of the model information out there at the coalface, out there on the projects. So very briefly, I just want to touch on site tracking. So Revizto users are now able to get instant access to the most recent as-built 3D data with Cubics Works. So there's an integration between Cubics and Revizto that allows, after a scan is done on site, to then drag that information back into Cubics and via the link raise issues and use the issue tracker within Revizto to be able to have a seamless tracking system that either looks at site issues as they're captured and also allows the design team to review that. It's a really good interface and great tool when you're able to actually bring the project that's actually happening live and is still being designed into one space. And finally, very briefly, 4D planning. So IFC 2x3 exports straight out of Revizto allow us to keep our 4D planning instances up to date quickly and easily. We're not relying on teams to produce IFCs for us or DWFX files. We can just grab an IFC straight out of Revizto, drop it into CM Builder, and the teams are in there doing their own 4D planning and delivery. It's a phenomenal tool. So I just want to say thank you, and thanks very much.
Thank you, Warren, for your presentation. I'd now like to welcome our second speaker, Andrew Ho, Territory Growth Executive, Revizto. Andrew helps construction teams connect office workflows with site operations. He supports organisations from billion-dollar corporations to local SMEs in using digital tools to improve efficiency, reduce risk, and keep projects on track. With hands-on experience implementing BIM and other platforms, Andrew focuses on practical solutions that make a real difference on the ground. He helps teams integrate technology into everyday workflows to simplify coordination, make faster decisions, and deliver project outcomes. Please welcome Andrew Ho.
All right, thanks for the introduction. I won't take too much time off the main keynote speakers, but essentially to do a little bit of justice in explaining what Revizto is about and how we bridge the gaps between the site and the office. For those of you who've been following our journey throughout the past few years, Revizto has grown throughout ever since 2012. Our visionary and leader, Allan, found that at the very start of the built environment and within the construction industry, there was always this gap in terms of communication and accountability when it comes to information being transferred to one end to another, whether you're dealing with various multiple stakeholders from your consultants, the architects, the engineers, the subtrades, the owners, and eventually the main contractors. Everyone's got their own unique kind of common data environment or tools that they use that they prefer, and information often gets siloed in those remarks. So Allan saw this gap. Siloed information causes a lot of miscommunication in between. Miscommunication creates and invites challenges that brings disputes to the project, that delays the project timeline. All this, in contrast, if it could be solved with having one tool that could bring in all the information from all your various sources of authoring tools and even CDEs, Wouldn't that address the issue? Totally. Maybe you'd still have miscommunication because construction is not an everyday smooth sailing kind of approach. You'd still have communication gaps. But the idea is to really minimize that. And that's where Allan saw that vision and he saw that pain point to address the industry. Our mission at Revizto is to revolutionize teamwork, to give teams an efficient tool, or rather a user interface that they can communicate and use throughout the entire project duration, all the way to the end of the life cycle when you're doing your facility management. It's by empowering teams to make better decisions together. And the whole point of it is to change the AECO industry to have this mindset of collaboration and constant improvement, to encourage one another to fill in information where it's needed, to communicate well, to pass on information with accountability. All those would help to make the project deliver much better and quicker. So who is Revizto? We are, in a nutshell, an integrated collaboration platform. We unify project intelligence and make it immediately accessible and actionable for the entire team, providing a unified access to your project's data for both 2D and 3D workflows. So just picture this. Your information is coming in from your current native authoring software. You're talking about Revit. You're talking about OpenRoads. You're talking about ArchiCAD. You're talking about SketchUp. You name it. We have a robust list of plugins that we have already connected to and done the homework to establish these connections for you. All you have to do is to use this layer, that is Revizto, that aggregates this data and helps you communicate and collaborate throughout your project lifecycle, whether it is in your ICE meetings or your day-to-day communication. The central hub for all your models, essentially being that federated common data environment, and most importantly, the single source of truth. So it is also a real-time issue tracker. We've got AR immersiveness for quality assurance and quality checking. Sharon will mention a little bit more about the augmented reality function later on in the slides, and also a clash-free environment by providing projects that with the technical capability of running clashes alike your current native tools that you're using, but think that it's all in one environment. The clash automation is truly automatic with various different tools to automate the processes in generating automatic, truly automatic clashes. And really, it's about collaborating from anywhere. So when I mention the entire project lifecycle, I mean the entire project lifecycle. I'm talking about the inception stage, design and development, the constructability reviews, your clash detection, your field mobility, your dashboards and reporting for C-suite management and project timelines, and even to the end of life, which is the master planning. Using a tool that can help collaborate and aggregate all the data sources is crucial for master planning purposes, because you get all the data, all the history and remarks of your constructability reviews, of the timelines and the deliverables of the project, which gives you an educated, more of an educated information for you to plan the next building and the next building thereafter. So with all this information, it helps with your pursuit and really understanding what makes a successful project, what sort of budget is incurred by delivering such. This is just a sample slide of one of our customers that shared with us they've used many different kinds of tools from the industry in different projects that they have. Some may look very familiar to you. On the left, you'll see the various different authoring tools from the top. Down below, the different file formats they have to navigate, and all the way to the bottom, the CDEs they have to work with. It may seem ordinary, right? Maybe. For a project, it may not be that tricky. They use what they're given. But if you're talking about an enterprise approach, a corporate level, you've got siloed data and you want to submit a report to your management in terms for master planning, for bidding of new projects. And all this information is in different layers. You can't really export them out to put them into your Power BI. That's where Revizto, our tool, like a collaboration engine, would come into play and bridge all those gaps together for you. It is the backbone for you to do your master planning and all the way to delivering that level of client experience at the end of the day. Just a quick snapshot of the industries we serve, so not just on airports, but also more infrastructure, commercial buildings, and residential. In Singapore, we work very closely on LTA projects and also on the HDB side of things in hospitals. So really, Revizto is more of a tool that can be used for any kind of domain, whether you're in oil and gas or in the building construction. It's entirely up to you, and the use case is limitless. As I mentioned previously, these are the plugins that we have and the supported formats, all of which have been vetted through, and after speaking and understanding from all of our customers and our partners in industry, these are the connections and integrations that we have worked to deliver to the general masses to help you with your workflow. And truly about mobile communication, whether you're on site to view the model or even resolve issues, to do the defects on site, or even on your tablets, and all the way to the office using your computer. The gap between the site and, or rather, the void between the site and also mobile on site itself and in the office is ever so small, and information is carried across. So, to sum it up, and I'll pass this on to the keynote speakers to emphasize a little bit more about their use cases and about what Revizto is about from a technical perspective. Imagine this. Your models are now uploaded automatically into Revizto. Your communication is all tabulated and managed in one platform. No more WhatsApps, no more PDFs, no more email exchanges. I mean, occasionally you do have some email exchanges, but not for the purposes of resolving clashes or resolving issues. Everything can be settled and resolved on Revizto itself, reducing the level of RFIs. No longer do you have to wait for a week to resolve an RFI. Everything can be done on the spot like that. So this is really the point that I want to drive across to the audience. Start by changing these processes. Start by encouraging true collaboration, by having communication being shared across with everyone. It's not only going to make your life easier, it's not only going to make your job much easier, it's also going to make the company have a little bit more profit in pocket. And all that in turn, it's a circular economy at the end of the day. It's going to impact you, it's going to impact your business, and it's going to impact the surroundings around you. So I would encourage that you'd start on this journey. If you're not already on a collaborative approach, trial it out. Reach out to us, get to know a little bit more, and generally in Singapore, I will see how I can help you with that journey, as we are always with you and we will hold your hands along this journey together. Thank you so much. Now I'm going to pass on to the next keynote speakers.
Thank you, Andrew, for your presentation. I'd now like to welcome our third speaker, Sharon, Customer Success Manager Asia, Revizto. Sharon has over 6 years' experience in construction management and digital transformation consulting. She has helped companies implement software across all stages of construction projects and supported Singapore government agencies, including the Land Transport Authority and the Building and Construction Authority, with BIM and digital initiatives. Sharon focuses on turning complex tools into practical, everyday solutions for teams, helping them improve coordination, reduce errors, and make projects run more smoothly. Please welcome Sharon Hui.
Thank you for the introductions. So good day, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. So today I'm going to share with you how Revizto can bridge the gaps from design to field. And let's start by addressing some of the common challenges faced across many of our AEC projects today. Team often operates in silos, leading to fragmented collaborations. The use of multiple authoring tools can create coordination headaches, and valuable time is lost on manual, repetitive tasks. Miscommunications between stakeholders leads to delays and costly reworks. And reporting is typically slow, manual, and inefficient. Design and delivery teams may not always be in sync. And there's often limited visibilities into talents and resource planning, which complicates workforce allocations. That's exactly where Revizto comes in. Revizto is an integrated collaboration platform that connects the entire project team, streamlining workflows and enabling real-time coordinations across design, constructions, and field phases. One of the most critical disconnects we often see is between design team and site team, a gap that can lead to serious consequences like rework if not addressed effectively. Revizto bridged the gaps, enabling seamless communications and coordination between office and site. Let's take a closer look at how that works, starting with the design team. A common challenge is working across multiple authoring tools. Revizto solves this by providing direct plugins for tools like Revit, ArchiCAD, Civil 3D, and Navisworks, allowing models to be published directly into the platform, no need for open BIM conversions. This not only saves time but ensures that the whole team is working from a single source of truth. Revizto also supports open format like IFC and point clouds, essentials for as-built documentations or deviation checks. During the design phase, clash detection becomes crucial. Revizto clash automation doesn't just flash clashes issue, it identifies design problems like missing elements or insufficient headroom clearance. Clashes can be grouped according to your workflow and automatically pushed into issue trackers. Using predefined stamp templates, issues are automatically assigned to relevant team members, removing the needs for manual trackings. Each issue carries full histories, status updates, and a live comment thread, keeping communication clear, transparent, and actionable. When it comes to design review and coordination meetings, Revizto allows you to walk through both 2D and 3D views, side by side or overlay, providing a clear visual of design intent. This makes it easier for those more comfortable in 2D to engage with the models, ultimately enhancing communications across disciplines. Once design are finalized and construction begins, the site team can go fully paperless with Revizto Site App. The Site App gives team access to models and drawings on the go. With the 2D and 3D split view, user can see exactly where they are on the plan while viewing the 3D models in content. Even better, Revizto AR features overlay the 3D models onto the physical environment, enhancing spatial understanding and reducing on-site guesswork. Accuracy is everything during constructions. The ruler tools lets teams check dimension directly in the models on laptops or mobile devices. This ensures the site team can verify measurements before installations, reducing reworks and ensuring alignments with the BIM models. Conventionally, tracking installation progress from site to office is a slow manual process. Site team mark up floor plans, scan them, and send them back to the office for verifications, a process ripe for delays. With Revizto Site app, this process becomes effortless. Site team can jump into the models and update installation statuses directly. And thanks to 2D and 3D overlays, the visual content makes updates even clearer. Once the model is synced, the office team has immediate access to the latest progress, no back and forth required. Revizto also supports the integration of large point clouds. This allows teams to compare the design model against as-built conditions as an essential step for accurate project delivery and handover. With the AR tools, it can also assist with deviation checks by overlaying the models onto the real world, helping identify discrepancy more effectively. Capturing project data is one thing, reporting it efficiently is another. Revizto reporting tool let users generate reports by filtering issues based on type, location, status, or assignee. These can be exported as PDFs or Excel, perfect for progress reviews or stakeholders updates. To take reporting a step further, Revizto also enables project dashboard. You can visualize project health in real time by tracking issues, blockers, or team performance through charts and filters. To summarize, here's how Revizto can transform your projects. Enable seamless collaborations for all stakeholders on a single platform. Streamline design coordination from the office to the site. Eliminate reworks or reduce project risk. Keep a clear, accessible record of decision-making history. Minimize double handling of tasks and improve efficiency. And achieve as-built delivery and handover, all within a unified platform. Revizto brings everything together, making your project workflow more efficient and effective. Now that we have explored what Revizto can do, let's take a look at how it aligns with Singapore Integrated Digital Delivery or IDD framework. For those who may be new to this concept, IDD is an initiative by the Building and Construction Authority, BCA of Singapore. It aims to accelerate digital adoptions across the built environment sectors by integrating processes and information throughout the entire project lifecycle, from design and fabrications to constructions and operations. Revizto supports 13 of the 19 IDD use cases, including BIM-based documentations, design checks, and ICE meetings. Here are a few examples of how Revizto supports IDD on the ground. Extract quantities directly from BIM models to CSV files for cost estimations, saving time on manual takeoffs. Generate QR codes for precast components so that site team can scan and update installation statuses on the spot. Use color-coded progress tracking to visually distinguish completed versus pending work month by month. As you have seen, Revizto is not just coordination tool, it's a platform that supports key phases of the IDD life cycles. If you are interested in exploring how Revizto can support your projects, whether you are at the design, constructions, or delivery phase, feel free to reach out after the sessions. We're happy to discuss how Revizto can be tailored to suit your workflow and project needs. That's conclude my presentation today. Thank you again for your time and attention. I hope these sessions has given you a clearer picture of how Revizto can drive success across your projects. We look forward to supporting your digital journey. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to our speakers for some great presentations this afternoon as we discuss seamless office to site collaboration. As always, it's now your time to get involved. So if you please could submit your questions in the chat box and on YouTube and let us know who your question is directed to. Big thank you to everyone who put forward questions whilst registering for this webinar this afternoon. And I might start with a question for you, Andrew, that came in from Keith, asking you, Andrew, how do you overcome network and data issues when they arise?
Thanks for the question, Keith, and thanks, Amanda, for reading it out. You can hear me all right, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So, how do you overcome network and data issues when they arise? Revizto has an offline feature that you'd be able, as a user, download information on the site, and what it'll do is cache the latest copy of your model information, all the issues that you have, in an offline mode. So, be it as it may, if you were to go into an area with low service or close to zero, an underground tunnel, you'd still be working on Revizto, capturing the information, dealing with all the issues offline. What you'll notice is that the issue IDs will all be tagged to no number at the point in time. But the moment you get a 3G connection, once you reach the surface, you've got mobile, the information would automatically be synced to the cloud. So that's how we would overcome the data issues when they arise, and they do arise. So we do have a lot of infrastructure projects that do go through these issues, and this is the answer that I can address to this question. I hope that satisfies your question, Keith.
Thank you for that, Andrew. And Sharon, we've got a question that's come in from Roger, and Roger is watching in the ACT. Asking you, Sharon, how does Revizto plan for connecting manufacturing drawings to site installation? Thank you.
Yep. Thanks for the questions. Yeah, I think this is something that we have keep on emphasize during the webinars from Warren, from Andrew, and myself as well, how to bridge the gaps between from the design to the field. So how does Revizto work is that once the models and drawing are published into Revizto, we're able to detect and fix any clashes earlier on. This is very important because it helps us to finalize the design and avoid issues down the line. And after design is locking, the delivery team can easily access and review the drawings using the Revizto site mobile app right there on site. And beyond that, the team can also take advantage of AR features in Revizto, both before and after installations. This allows the team to verify the positions, alignment, and overall accuracy in real time, making sure everything goes in exact as planned and reduce the needs for rework. And so I think this is how Revizto could help on connecting the manufacturing design to site installations. Yep.
Thank you for that, Sharon. Warren, we have a question that's come in from Sheridan, watching in Brisbane, asking you, Warren, you spoke about the increasing overlap between design and site work. In practice, site teams are often stretched thin and focused on delivery. What changes do you think the industry needs to make culturally or structurally to ensure site input genuinely influences design at the right time? Great question. Thanks, Warren.
Yeah. Thank you. Fantastic question, Sheridan. So I think going back to my presentation, it's all about the timing of information because that's the critical part about what we're doing. You can't install something that's not designed, and from a design point of view, it needs to be ready to go for the delivery team. So we're all human beings. Everyone will make mistakes. Everyone has different approaches, and even different projects need different approaches. When you look at a project like a infrastructure project, where typically a designer will be self-delivering the actual work on the site, and then vertical construction might be a little bit different in that you have there's a handover from a design to a contractor for the install of things like services and even structure. So it can be a bit difficult to make sure that the feedback from those two parties, particularly in a vertical construction or buildings construction sense, that feedback loop is actually happening between people installing on site and the people who are producing the documentation, whether that be designers or a design and construct kind of situation. So it's all about getting that early engagement. And then I think it's important to have that early communication as well. So work out how we're going to overcome issues, how we're going to track those issues. A lot of projects have people are really good at communicating, but not necessarily good at compiling it all into one place and being able to track what's going on. So you have all these broken threads of information, and you don't really have an overall view of what the health of the design is, or what the completion of the design is, if you will. So that's what I think needs to happen. I think it's about issue management and about making sure that people have got that early access to the information. I think it's definitely a cultural thing. From a technological point of view, I think we've got everything we need to do it. It's just a matter of getting people to buy in, and then having people consistently approach or have consistency in the projects and the way they're doing the work. Because any system's only as good as its weakest link. And if you have a system set up and then all of the people that are involved in the design or involved in the construction aren't actually using that, you've got an incomplete system. So it's about that consistency in the information and the consistency in the way we're doing the work or controlling the work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Andrew, we've got a question that's coming from Brasilius in WA, asking you, Andrew, how can Revizto advance just-in-time construction? Thank you.
Well, thank you for the question. So if I understand correctly, just-in-time construction is all about reducing waste and avoiding overstocking, making sure that things are managed on time, on budget, and based on the materials and manpower given, right? So with those key aspects, timing, visibility, and coordination, I would say it's a very important thing. Revizto contributes or rather advances just-in-time construction by having that centralized single source of truth. If you think about it, all the information on the BIM models, the drawings, the historical RFI information, and any issues are all stored into one platform, ensuring your designs and your designers and your teams, your site teams, to be in sync, working off the same kind of data. In the past, you may have different kinds of tools that you're using that would store different sets of information, and thereby creates a lot of conflicts in the planning side of things, because there is no single source of truth. Someone may tell you that he needs an X amount of rebar on this specific zone, but in the documentation they need they've committed to a specific set. So these kinds of information is quite common than we think, and it does happen. So with a single source of truth like Revizto, a collaborative platform like this, the key importance is to really aggregate all the information to help and facilitate that JIT construction. And it's not just about having that single source of truth, it's also about that real-time coordination, right? If you think about it, at least in Singapore, we normally would have our interconcurrent engineering meetings, ICE meetings we call them, happen every week. And it's usually at those times of the week, once a week maybe, that all the information would be then shared across the different teams and the different departments and the different subcons and so on. And by that time, it's just a bit too late. What we're facilitating here is more of a real-time environment for you to collaborate much earlier. If something needs to be resolved at this point in time, resolve it at this point in time before the ICE meeting. we sometimes have a habit to push things across to the next week, and so on as business as usual. But we can't really afford that. Construction is about time, and investing in too much time costs a lot of money for the project and would lead to further rework and delays. So real-time coordination is really what you kind of need in addressing that JIT construction, especially with a tool like Revizto. And it's really about how Warren mentioned the integration between the 4D and 5D planning. We've got the different sets of tools that you can play around with, like a selection inspector, if you're familiar with it, that would enable you with, if you've set custom properties as well, identify all the kinds of assets that you need during the design stage, and making sure that it's aligned to the specifications that's given by the client. So all these kinds of tools really contribute to that methodology that you're approaching for. And I would just like to say, just a few last points. It's more of like, we have the dashboards, the reportings, and the predictive insights to help you further analyze all the data that you need for your methodology approach in delivering the project. And not to mention, it's an open BIM ecosystem. Again, all the data comes in from the different sources that you have. We're not vendor locked in. So it's really getting the live information, all the information, all in one platform. And not to mention having that field mobility to connect the site teams with this workflow. So a lot of the times we forget, as people in the office, I don't work in BIM, but I understand we're all in the office. Sometimes we go on sites, yes, but we do tend to have a little bit of a disconnect with the site teams. They're running their own course, we're running our own as well. So it's really that importance of that field mobility, giving access to something that's easy for people to use, even the site teams. Thereby they rather, we'd encourage them and empower them to put in information, as much information as you need for your planning and your purposes, to ensure that just in time makes sense and carries out and fulfills for your project. So I know it's a little bit long-winded, but it's a lot of things combined together. Just think about real-time data, think about single source of truth and everything all in one, and a truly open BIM and mobile accessible product like Revizto. And then that would help you as part of what you want to achieve for your project. So I hope that answers the question.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Andrew. Sharon, we've had a question that's coming from Marius, who's watching in Queensland. Good afternoon to you. Asking you, Sharon, how does Revizto handle offline access in areas with poor internet coverage?
Yep, I think these are very interesting questions because we understand that when we go like in the lift, maybe we bring the mobile phone into the lift, we have poor connections, and then we go to underground, sometimes it face poor connections as well. So this question, I really love it. How Revizto actually handle this is that Revizto offer both online and offline access, which actually give a very big advantage for field works and also the underground projects. So what we recommend to the user is that before heading to the site, download the project to your device, either on your desktop apps or your Revizto site mobile apps. These store the necessary cache locally. So once you go on site, you can still use the mobile apps like viewing the models and drawings, use the AR features, and capture any issues and photos directly in Revizto, even without an internet connections. So once you're back in office or reconnect to Wi-Fi, just sync the project. All the issues and comments that you recorded offline will be uploaded and make it available to the wider teams. Yeah, so that's it how Revizto handles offline access. Yep.
Thank you for that. Warren, we've received a question from Nagarajan asking, what are the key differences between Revizto and Navisworks?
Navisworks. I love Navisworks. Like a lot of people, it was my first platform that I learned a lot about 3D geometry, clash detection, all that sort of thing. I used to joke that Navisworks was a symphony and orchestra and I was the conductor. I used to think I was pretty good at it. where Navisworks still has its place, and Revizto has its place. It all depends on personal preferences and also what's available to the companies or the parties that are involved. Revizto does have the integrated issue tracker, which makes a massive difference when you're trying to get consistency in your issue tracking and be able to track who's responsible for what and who's closing out, who's actioning items, maybe which teams are stagnating. So the inbuilt issue tracker is a massive difference between the two platforms. And also the ability to actually also use the 2D workflow that Sharon touched on before, where there's a lot of designers and engineers and architects and people that are much more comfortable marking up 2D drawings for action in terms of modeling actions and that sort of thing. So they still have the ability to be able to create an issue in 2D, then have it switch back to 3D, and then use the switchback function to actually get back to the authoring software. So Navisworks is good. One of the advantages of Navisworks is that you can produce a point-in-time document that is unchanged, but with Revizto, you can also do the same thing by exporting the IFCs and federating that. So it really comes down to what you're trying to achieve, but having an integrated issue management tool within the platform makes a big difference.
Thank you for that. And Warren, just staying with you, we had a question coming from Osgush, who is watching in WA, asking very simply, why Revizto?
Why Revizto? Because they asked me to come and talk today. So no, in all seriousness, I think the previous answer probably alludes to it a little bit. It just comes, no one platform can do everything in this market. So any one platform that says they can do it all, or any one person who says they know it all when it comes to digital engineering or BIM, it's not going to be completely true. So I was forced onto Revizto reluctantly in 2020. I had my Navisworks workflows all worked out, and I was quite happy in my little Navisworks world. And the builder I was working or contracted to at the time said, we're going to be using Revizto for this project because we want to track the issues a little bit better than what we have previously. And I was a bit of a convert, I must admit. I found it as a lead coordinator, a much easier way to track what was going on and actually know where things were lying. And the beauty of Revizto over pure Navisworks is that you can just reassign issues between people and have instantaneous back and forth, where, previous model sharing platforms, the tradition was to produce a static 3D document and then pass that around without having the ability to update it after it was actually exchanged. So having it cloud-based, having it so that you can be instantly updated and issues reassigned makes a big difference. But at the end of the day, you need to work with what platform works best for you.
Thanks. Well said, Warren. We've covered a lot, 3 speakers this afternoon talking about seamless office to site collaboration. I'd just like to invite the 3 of you to just share with our audience the key takeouts from your presentations, maybe a couple of minutes each, and maybe we could kick off with Sharon and then Warren and bring us home, Andrew. So Sharon, are you happy to do that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so once again, thank you for your time and attention to attend our webinars today. So I think the key takeaways that I would like to share is that we always wanted to bridge the gaps between the design and the site team, because we always heard from the feedback from the industry is that design team only handle about the design, site team, they just get the job done. But how about bridge these two or connect these two teams together? Because at the end of the project, we wanted to deliver the project successfully. We wanted to make sure that we are actually work within the budget, and we also wanted to deliver on time. So with Revizto, we can help you to connect the bridge, not only handle the design team, but also wanted to help our site team to update the progress status or the installation status from the site all the way back to office to streamline the whole workflow and process using Revizto. Yeah, so yeah, that's my key takeaways for the team. Yep.
Thank you. Warren.
I think in any situation like this where you're talking about a specific platform, it's very easy to get caught up in a comparison where you're talking about this platform versus that platform. I generally try and stay software agnostic or platform agnostic because I feel like the platforms are just there to facilitate what we are trying to do as teams. So I'm a big believer in the human element more than the technological element when it comes to that. Even something as simple as clash detection, no matter which platform you're carrying it out in, doesn't have the ability to look at something and know whether it's compliant, know whether it can actually be constructed, supported, whether it's got compliant fire separation, whether the wall can be built around it, all of these other factors that only literally a human eye can have a look at. Now, some people might argue that AI will get there eventually, and I have no doubt that it will one day. But in the meantime, we need to actually look at what we're designing, communicate with each other as human beings, and use whichever platform we're using to the best advantage we can. So, and make sure that we're really, it's about drawing that experience from both teams and trying to find that middle ground. Now, I know it's easier said than done with commercial issues that are out there, and project timelines are becoming really horribly shortened. It's just the fact of the industry. But what we need to do is just get that delivery team involvement a little bit earlier and start maybe shaping the design around how it's actually getting installed a little bit as well, rather than just handing over a static design to the delivery team and saying, hey, delivery team, this is what you're building, good luck. So getting that early buy-in. But that'd be my key takeaway. No matter what platform you're using, it's about getting everyone on the project to be using the same platform in the same way. So you have a way of knowing where the issues are, what's outstanding, and more often than not, there's when you've got 10 or 12 teams working on something, there'll always be one that's dragging the chain. So you need to be able to identify that and then work out where that bottleneck is, and hopefully it's a team that's at the end of the process rather than the start of the process, because otherwise that has many more knock-on effects. So, yeah, my key takeaway is the human element. People just need to communicate a little bit more, and if it's people, just put your hand up. If you don't know, put your hand up and ask the question. It's assumptions that'll get us. So, yeah. Thank you.
Thanks. That's good advice, Warren. And Andrew, your key takeouts.
Well, I think both Sharon and Warren said it quite well, really. I will say this last point, though, that to echo sort of what Warren mentioned about technology being there as part of an enabler, and it's more of the human element to take that initiative to use these tools. Because it can be any kind of technology at the end of the day. And softwares, we know, are a dime a dozen in the industry. Every different software would claim a different thing. Listen to the credibility of the users. Hear from people like Warren when it comes to Revizto. See what they like about it. Learn from it. I mean, at the end of the day, we're here as a software to deliver that bridging of the gap between the BIM and the site team. We're facilitating you with a tool that is easy to use. Anyone can use it. You don't have to take master classes in complex softwares to learn about them. Anyone from your management to your C-suites can use it, all the way to your site teams. So that's really the turning point that we're trying to facilitate for the mindset to change and to use these tools. And by turning these complex models into an accessible, collaborative environment, instead of working in silos, which you may have or may have in the past, it's really about everyone working off the same source of truth. And again, one single source of truth, at the very least, is a step up for your workflows, guaranteed. And No more BIM living in only in the office. Think about that. No more site teams relying on outdated drawings. Revizto makes both worlds speak the same language at the end of the day. So just think about that, and that's all I have to say, really. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. And it is all the time we have for today. And if you could join me once again in thanking Warren, Sharon, and Andrew for their time and input. I'd also like to thank Engineers Australia's industry partner, Revizto, for their support. We would appreciate, as always, if you could take a couple of minutes to complete the short feedback form, which is linked in the description box below. Your input helps us to improve and plan for future sessions. Thank you again for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you at our next Industry Partners event. Thank you and good afternoon.